So I have to read you, or you have to read yourself, the obligatory safe harbor statement. I think what I'm supposed to say is if you're interested in more, go to Salesforce.com's website. So today we're going to talk about social media, and specifically how our customers are using our application to prospect using social media, and then to drive adoption into their CRM. I'm going to have a couple of guests from two companies that have been customers of ours for a while that had a lot of success using our application to do that. So what's happening in the social world that's really changed over the last 2 years is that customers are no longer interested in sales pitches. They want to be educated, and they mostly want to educate themselves, which creates a problem for your salespeople. And that the customer is not coming to them saying, give me data sheets, because those are up already on your website. They're not coming and say, give me customer references, because those are already on Facebook and Twitter. So how do your salespeople get engaged with customers that are using the internet to educate themselves? Now, your reps don't want to waste any time with people who are not good prospects. So what they want from you and from your organization is information about who they should call, which company is a good prospect and when, and who are the key people of that company. And that's what we'll be talking about today and giving you some examples. So the problem of understanding your prospects and your customers traditionally has been addressed by editorial models, what I call traditional data providers here. D&B, Cortera, Capital IQ, Hoover's, Factiva, you name it. The problem is that that model doesn't work by itself anymore. The reason it doesn't work is because if you want to learn about me and sell to me, you can go into those databases. You're going to find out whatever information was there from a year ago, but that's not really going to help you. What you really want to see is my LinkedIn profile, my Facebook profile, what I'm tweeting about. If you want to learn about my company, you're going to go into Hoover's. You're going to get some static record that's a couple of years old. That's not really what's happening in my company. What's happening in my company is we announced this morning, we announced yesterday. That's just not available. What people are saying about us on Twitter. So the good news is there's a lot more information available in the cloud that allows your customer-facing people to be much smarter about who they're dealing with, who is worth spending time with, who is a waste of time, which are the key people in organizations, which companies to reach out. The problem they have is too much. So if you have tried to do research on a company, you pretty quickly have 12 tabs open. You look up a LinkedIn, you did a Google search, you went to their website, you went to see some financial information, you went in a couple of news sources. If your profession is customer-facing, and your job is every day is to reach out to the right customers, interact with them, that just doesn't scale. And so what we built over the last 5 years is a platform that brings together the best of both worlds. The traditional information that tells you revenues, employees, location, but more and more the social media information, and puts it all in one place. And we built an architecture that uses what's called natural language processing to read through this information and say, okay, some article got written this morning in China Today that's talking about Apple. Now, is this Apple a fruit? Is it a company? And what's been discussed here? Is this a product launch? Are they opening up new offices in China? And what is going on? Which are the key people that are being discussed here? So our technology is able to bring this information in from the cloud and make sense of it. And the usefulness is that your salespeople, your marketing people, your customer-facing people do not have to sift through all this information by hand, but they can use technology to bring them the information they need. And so what we've done on top of all this rich information is built analytics. And the two things we've built are around what are the compelling business events. One of the customers I'll be introducing today is a company called SuccessFactors. How many of you know SuccessFactors? Raise your hand. Yeah, so they provide business performance technology. They provide employee performance technology. So their people want to see things having to do with business performance, employee performance. Another customer of ours is a company called Ariba. They care about completely different things. They care about supply chain. They care about completely different issues. So the tailoring of the discovery of the information to each one of our customers and each one of their reps is really, really critical. Now, just having that information available is not enough. We believe you have to inject it in the place where it's most useful. So we've built a mashup integration into Salesforce.com that puts it in the place of need. So a lead qualification person who's looking at a lead sees in the same window relevant information about the company. And then quickly they can say, is this company big enough, too small? Do I know anybody at this company? Is there some, has this company just raised a bunch of capital, which pops them to the top of my qualification list? Have they just lost their VP of sales or CEO, which might pop them to the bottom? So what do I care about in this company? And they can see that in place. If they're looking at an account that's a customer, they can say, is this customer, is it a threat right now, the fact that they hired a new CFO? Maybe it's a threat. Is it a problem they just filed bankruptcy? Maybe that's a problem. And it's critical for your customer-facing people to know those things. So more specifically, I'm not going to walk you through a demo. We're just going to look at some screenshots. I would highly encourage you, if this is of interest, to go by our booth. As we enter the expo, we're on the right. Follow the signs to the Aston Martin. And so what we present in Salesforce.com is an aggregated view. What are all the sources on the internet saying about this company, in this case, Taleo? Who are the key people at this company? Aggregated from a number of different sources, from Jigsaw, from Capital IQ, from the website, from LinkedIn. How do you bring it all together and make it easy for your salespeople to look at that? What is going on in this company? So this company is having some litigation issues. Well, if you're selling legal services, that's probably of interest to you. If you're not interested in any kind of litigation, then your users wouldn't even see that. And instead, they would see that there's a funding development, which might be of interest to them. What has been said on Twitter and on blogs about this company? More and more, the things that the companies say about themselves are highly structured. They are what the company wants you to know. Oftentimes, an opportunity to engage with the customer is really around pain points that they're not going to tell anybody about, but people on Twitter might be discussing. The other day, I had a call with a media company, a potential partner. I looked at our buzz tab, and people on Twitter were talking about how that morning the company was having layoffs. It's very interesting for me to know that information. I would never know that information from the traditional media. Maybe the next day I would, but it would not. It would be too slow. It would not be relevant at that point. So all this adoption has really created an acceleration of customers. We now have over 400 customers. We have over 20,000 end users. We are the #1 rated application on AppExchange out of 800. We're the #2 most popular download of all times on AppExchange as well. So customers have spoken by signing up with us and renewing with us as well. So the companies that I'm talking to today have been with us for 1, 2, 3 years, and they continue to see increased productivity. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Question number 1 is, how many of you are either customers or users of InsideView or SalesView? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you use a traditional data provider, Hoover's, OneSource, one of those? Great. So a lot of potential converts for us. That's good to hear. Of the people who have answered, I use something else, I don't use SalesView, how many of you have reps coming to you saying, God, I love this application, it's really helping me out? Okay. Our customers get that reaction. One of the things Alex can talk about is at SuccessFactors, people started coming to him, salespeople saying, I got to have this thing. My friend has it next door, is really useful. That's the level of productivity that your salespeople are looking for you to provide to them, not to just give them a database of information that sits on the side and never gets used. Let me ask another question of the people who have raised the hand on, I use something other than InsideView. How many of you have been able to correlate any level of productivity, whether it's lead conversion rate, whether it's quota achievement, whether it's win rates, to your usage of sales intelligence? 1, 2. Okay. So Aberdeen, just 3 weeks ago, did a study, interviewed 422 companies, and about 10% of those companies were users of our application. The remainders were not. And what they gave us is the breakdown. This is not something that we paid for. It's not something we asked them to do. They just did it on their own. They gave us a breakdown of how did our customers compare to other customers when it comes to sales achievement, rep achievement, lead conversion rates, win-loss rates. And then what's even more compelling, they said, this is how your customers have done over the last 12 months compared to companies that are not using our application. Now, maybe we're just lucky we have smart customers, but the reality is we're seeing impact that goes beyond just here's some data, but really goes to things like rep achievement, revenue growth, win-loss rates. And our customers are getting this value because they're using our application broadly. So lead qualification, list building to reach out to new customers, prospecting, account strategy, territory planning, driving CRM adoption. There's not one thing here that's a silver bullet. It's not just about lead generation. It's not just about lead qualification. It's not about account management. It's about all of it. It's about how do you bring relevant intelligence, social relevant intelligence throughout your customer engagement, and how do you get productivity out of that. So with that, I will invite Alex and Phil to join me, and I'll do a little introduction, and I will switch to over here. Hopefully everybody can see me reasonably well and still hear me. Excellent. So I'll start with Alex. For those of you who don't know, SuccessFactors, they are the fastest growing SaaS company that's publicly traded today. They have 5 million users. They're going to do 150 million or so in revenue this year. And they've been really a tremendous success in a space that traditionally was a sleepy space, the space of making people more productive from a human resources perspective, and really taking that game up to the next level, which is how do you help companies get better business results through a number of different things, through alignment of what employees do to the direction of the company, to really getting the right work being done by the right people at the right time. So, Alex, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Umberto. Good to be here.
Can everybody hear Alex? No.
Thanks, Umberto. Good to be here.
Alex, if you could tell us a little bit about your target customer, how your sales organization is structured, and kind of how you think about going to market from a sales perspective. And I didn't mention Alex is VP of Global Sales Operations at SuccessFactors, so his job is really sales productivity amongst other things.
Sure, be happy to. We sell basically a solution that applies to any company of any size. Essentially, if you have employees and you want to do either performance reviews or you want to do goal alignment, and essentially put together plans to make sure that your strategies are executed on, your target customer. And within those customers, our target audience are two groups. One are the kind of the senior level executives in the company that set the strategy for the company, and now they want to make sure that that's executed on well, meaning that they want to hold people accountable and be able to look at goal alignment and tracking how well they're doing against those. So that's one target. And the other target is the HR organization, where we do talent management, succession planning, compensation reviews. So we basically do more of the more fundamental HR work. So these are the two targets for us. The way we're organized, since we cover basically the whole gamut, we have basically a large enterprise group. These are field sales reps that are primarily calling on customers, your standard sales reps. Then we have a group of people who call basically on a mid-market, and we define that as companies between 500 and 2,500. So those are also field reps, but they are not as experienced as the enterprise org. And then we also go after companies that are 500 employees or below, and for those we use a telesales channel. So we have 3 different sales organizations, and then they're supported by a lead gen organization, which basically people on the phone making calls and getting appointments, sending us in front of customers. And we have operations in the U.S. And Europe and APAC.
And SuccessFactors has been a tremendous success in really scaling, going from certain types of customers to going broadly from very small to very large, U.S. and then international. So we have seen them really grow over the last 2-3 years with us and using intelligence in very different ways, whether you're doing SMB sales or whether you do enterprise sales, but really understanding how do you use the latest information about customers to make sure you're relevant and they're going to take your phone calls and answer your emails. The other gentleman who would join me is Phil Rollinson with IntraLinks, his VP of Sales Operations, and IntraLinks, again, focused on sales productivity. IntraLinks is a very interesting company that is also in the cloud, just like we are, just like SuccessFactors is, just like Salesforce.com is, and provides meeting rooms that are highly secure for people that are, for example, working on an M&A type of transaction. Great traction, great success. Their top 10 pharma companies are all customers of IntraLinks. The top 10 biotech companies are all customers of IntraLinks. The top 50 global banks. I don't know there were 50 global banks left in the world. Are there still 50? I thought there were only 3 left. But top 25 law firms. There's definitely lots of those. And the top 10 clinical research. So obviously a very targeted solution and one that has had a lot of traction in the customer. So Phil, if you could also walk us through your target buyer and how you're organized from a sales perspective.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So IntraLinks is a company that's a software as a service company, and I suppose our cachet is that we secure your digital information in the cloud. And as Umberto outlined, we really fall into, or we address 2 separate markets. Our traditional market is selling through investment banks, law firms who are advising their clients on acquisitions, mergers, divestitures, any kind of very highly secure, confidential exchange of information. It's a traditional market for us. Typical deal sizes range in the $25,000, $30,000 range. But over time, we're finding a lot of traction in the enterprise, as an enterprise sale. So we've been addressing life sciences companies, and life sciences companies have also the need to confidentially and securely exchange data. And they do that for things like safety document distribution. And there we're looking at opportunities, they're long cycle sales, somewhere in the region of $1 million plus. So we're approaching the market in 2 separate ways, and we have sales teams that address enterprise sales and shorter sales cycles for the M&A market.
And Phil, can you talk about how your large deal sales structure is different than your SMB sales structure from the roles and responsibilities and the type of workflow that you do?
So our sales organization in total is around about 100 people. We're a global organization, and it's divided into a significant component which is addressing the investment banks, sales cycle anywhere from 1 day to 3 months, and a smaller organization but a growing organization directed at the enterprise accounts. And there the sales cycle could be anything up to a year. We do have an inside sales group. It's a small group, but it's primarily focused at inbound, as opposed to a more traditional outgoing lead generation and prospecting sales group. But this is something that we look to develop in the future.
Alex, I know you guys have really figured out the model of how to do lead generation, larger accounts, and you have split teams. Can you talk about the roles and responsibilities that you have there?
Sure. So every sales rep at SuccessFactors, like I'm sure any other company, are required to do prospecting. And I don't think as a rep that's something you get away with and without doing. So we have to do prospecting, but we do focus a group on just lead generation. So we have a group that is dedicated to making calls, and they support basically the enterprise organization that I mentioned. And the way we're structured, we put them in a couple different locations, and they're on the phone, and they're actually a big user of InsideView, making calls. They have target accounts. They work with their sales reps very directly on targeting those. So that's for our mid-market and for our enterprise organization, we do have a separate group. And then for the for the smaller business, a lot of leads come in through the web, through the marketing efforts and email campaigns, and that's basically how we distribute.
Great. So we've started already talking about prospecting, how you go about prospecting. So there are really things that we see in our customer base, not just with these 2 customers, but with the hundreds of other customers that we have. And what they're looking for is how do you engage when it comes to prospecting with the right customer at the right time. And things happen to companies where all of a sudden a company that was not a good prospect just a month ago becomes a great prospect. It might be an M&A transaction that's undercoming. It might be a new CEO that comes in and says, I really want to align my employees to performance. So one of the technologies that we've developed is what we call trigger events. And trigger events is technology where you can say, give me all the companies that have done that have talked about an M&A transaction in the last 30 days. All the companies that have hired a new CEO over the last 30 days. All the companies that are expanding operations. So each one of our customers tailors that. And the reason we can do that is we're watching about 3 million documents every day that come into our system from the cloud, from all the sources I discussed before. Our technology tags those and says, oh, this is an M&A. Oh, this is a discussion of employee performance. This is a discussion of the new CEO. So your sales reps and your customer-facing people can trigger on some of those events and say, oh, this company, I'm not just going to reach out to them now because it's the right time, but I also understand who I should reach out to, and I have a reason to talk to them. And I know as an executive, when I get inbound calls and there's a reason they want to talk to me, all of a sudden that call stands out from the rest. Because the rest are mostly like, I have something I want to sell you. Would you like to pick up the phone and answer my phone call or return my email? And the answer inevitably is no. But if it's, oh, I see that you just did an M&A transaction, I have some technology that can help you, all of a sudden, that's an email that's worth responding to. So let's look at one of the SuccessFactors users, and they're going to talk about their use of our application.
SuccessFactors. I'm part of the lead generation team. I'm responsible for qualifying opportunities. I do a lot of prospecting and searching for contacts. SalesView has really become an integral part of my daily workflow. So the first thing I do when I call an account is I go down to the key information tab, and it's a great place. It's got a lot of information aggregated in an easy to find manner where I can find their revenue, employees, main phone number, and a brief description of what they do. One of my favorite SalesView features is Smart Agents. An important part of effective prospecting is staying abreast of key business events our prospects are experiencing and tying them to what SuccessFactors does. Smart Agents give me the timely and relevant intelligence to do just that. All I have to do is set the right agents for my target accounts or watch list, and SalesView finds and alerts me on key events and business activities, such as leadership changes and expanding operations. Also, the daily notifications I get in my inbox give me great reasons to reach out to my prospects and to engage them in relevant conversations. SalesView's Salesforce.com mashup is awesome. Having a single point of contact makes call preparation a lot easier. It definitely improves productivity to have one go-to place to do all my research for effective prospecting. The SalesView takes less than half the time it took before to find all the relevant information I need to call my contacts. That way I spend a lot more time on the phone and less time looking for the information I need. For 95% of the calls I make, SalesView gives me all the relevant information I need to connect with and qualify my prospects.
And this is Kimberly from Phil's company talking about, again, how it really, SalesView cuts down a lot of our time. And if you're going after the SMB business in particular, speed is extremely critical. You can't afford to have your salespeople spend a bunch of time collecting information and researching. So, Phil, can you talk about data sources and types of information that you see your salespeople using to gather information about prospects before they make a phone call?
Well, traditionally, we've used all of the usual research tools such as Google and in particular some domain-specific sites that are relevant to our industry. But more and more, our salespeople go straight into SalesView. It presents all of the information that they need in terms of the account, in terms of the key information. Is this company worth dealing with? Do they have the kind of issues that are relevant to our products and service? Who are the key people that we want to talk to? What events are taking place? And you can drill straight into information about the contacts. What are they interested in? What are the connection points that you can look at? And as Kimberly said, Kimberly is focusing very much on building her territory at the moment. She has a lot of virgin accounts. She's doing a lot of prospecting, and she's cut her research time down by a factor of 80%. It's a tremendously powerful tool. One place, and it's all there.
Alex, how about you? What do you see your reps? What kind of information sources do they use, and how is that helping them from prospecting?
You know, it's the same list. It's the same normal set of sources that any other rep will go to finding on the web. But the thing that really works for us with SalesView is these triggers, mainly because once you set up these agents and you basically pick a keyword. In our case, would be change in leadership. We like to be aware of that because any change in leadership means that potentially there's a new strategy that needs to be executed on, or performance, or accountability, or succession. These are the things that we help with. And so we could be calling a customer 10 times, and 9 out of 10, the timing is not right, they're not interested, and what we can help them with is not a big issue on their list. But that 10th time it is. So how do you time that is with these agents, and basically that's what's great. So Paul and company show up at work, and they basically have a list of things that just have been triggered based on the keywords that they have used. So, I mean, alternatively, Paul could be spending his whole day surfing through the internet and kind of reading news releases on his companies, but this kind of information being pushed to him is a big deal. And so that's one. And then within SalesView, and the thing that I like to, that I mentioned that I think is very important here is everything's presented within Salesforce.com in our case, right? So they're going through the opportunity or accounts, and if you need information, SalesView panel is right there. And other sources of information that our reps use are things like, LinkedIn. They do read the blogs, but, they use LinkedIn to get the latest information update. But, they can, within SalesView, easily get there and get the information. So the fact that we're presenting them with kind of one source, kind of one application, one window to get in and do everything, in terms of productivity, is awesome. And I think we've already heard from them several times how much they save time because they feel like they got everything they need basically at the tip of their fingers.
Great. So next topic is going to be really kind of networking and how to use networking information. Before we go into that, wanted to open it up and make it a little bit more interactive. So any questions you have around prospecting, what we've talked about so far? Yes? So the question is, do you mostly see usage out of inside sales, out of field sales, or equally both?
So we have field sales reps, and we also have inside sales reps closing deals on the phone that I think you're referring to that as inside sales. I also have a lead generation organization. They do prospecting. So all three groups use that. I would say that the lead generation team are kind of the super users of the product, because their job is prospecting every day. I mean, that's what they do, make 80, 100 calls a day. And they're sitting in front of the machine, and basically they can do that. But you might have seen that our name popped up in 2007. We started pretty early with InsideView. At the time, we started basically with just the lead generation team. We said, they came in, and I canvassed the team, and it looked like the lead gen team could take advantage of the product. But as our messaging and target audience changed, as we started to target higher-level executives in companies, it was interesting how I started to get emails from the sales reps in the field saying, I need a system to help me make these connections. And again, just briefly on prospecting, if you talk to any C-level executive, the best way to get to them is to make some sort of a connection that makes sense for them, some sort of reference. And InsideView was able to kind of create those references for them and just make it much easier to have that conversation that says, hey, here's a reference. Here's a company that's using us, or your competitor, or some reference that makes sense. And because of that, our sales reps came to us and said, I like to use this because it helps me make those connections. So to answer your question, we're using it across the board. The lead gen team is definitely the super users.
And I would say it really depends on the focus of your individual sales teams and the individuals themselves. We have different scenarios. So our field sales reps, some of them are new, some of them have inherited new territories. They're doing a lot of prospecting, a lot of research. The more established ones are using this tool to identify new use cases or new applications for our service in a wider use of the organization. And then our middle market people are once again looking for new contacts. And then our inbound people are working more with inbound leads, and that is very much understanding and learning about the person and the company that has called us and trying to understand what their need might be. And my experience of outbound telesales activity, I think that's really where there's huge potential there. Certainly when we move in that direction, we'll be utilizing this tool for that.
So your inside sales right now is kind of inbound reaction?
Ours is inbound, yes.
Although we had to, given our secret agent team that you saw, and you might have seen our booth, we had to work really hard to find a customer who had the perfect British accent, and so Phil was flown all the way out from New York so that he could delight us with his accent. I think there was a question down there, and then one here, and then we'll have to move on. Yeah.
Our experience is it is becoming effective more recently. So, again, when we signed up a few years back, the sources were not there. Last year, in fact, we worked with InsideView, and we expressed interest that we'd like to do the same thing. And so for the main markets in Europe, the data is very good.
And I would echo that statement. To begin with, we were finding a lot of limited amounts of information, but it's growing. And we stay very close with the team as they add more and more data sources, and we kind of influence that decision to some extent. So there's a bit of a partnership going there.
I would say to a large extent, and that's a big difference between us and the traditional data providers tend to be very old and slow companies, is that we actually update our technology 12 times a year, and that's all feedback from customers are saying more of this, less of that, tune over here. So we're very tied in. We have a rapid development process. It really ties the customers straight into the conversation. I know there's at least 2 or 3 features where the sales reps of SuccessFactors said, I want that, and within a couple months we had that up and running for them. Yeah.
We focus on the small and medium business market within the industry that we're in. One of the things we found with all of the information resources is that it's very robust when you're looking at public companies or companies that are 10,000 employees. When you get down to online retailers that are maybe 10 people cranking out $3 or $4 million a year, it's very hard to get that same level of quality of data. Does InsideView rectify that in any way?
It changes the dynamic to a large degree because most of those companies might not be covered by traditional editorial model because they just, frankly, they can't afford. They have to pay people to do the editorial work, and you can't afford to cover the long tail. But most of those companies publish about themselves on the internet in many ways. So you might not get financial information, but you will get information around business events, about connections. Those people are often active in social media. So that's one of the use cases. And that's another area we continue to develop and make stronger. But it's one of the fundamental differences between an editorial model versus an aggregation model like we chose. I'd love to take more, but I don't want to do another Mark Benioff of doing an hour and a half, turning into 3 hours. So we'll take more questions in just a minute and at the end of the session. But I do want to move on to a topic that Alex brought up, which is once you've figured out a company that might be a customer or a prospect, how do you get to the right people? And all of you how many of you are familiar with LinkedIn? Raise your hand. Yeah. So all of you are familiar with LinkedIn. I was going to say that, but I thought I'd check. The problem is that you can't. So we do integrate LinkedIn into our technology. The problem, especially when you have more junior people, they don't have a big network. They don't know that many people. So you can launch into the LinkedIn, and everything is going to be 3 removed. And 3 removed, you're never going to get to. So the technology we've built in addition to LinkedIn and Facebook connections is connections that are not necessarily visible. So for example, the system tells me that at a customer or a prospect I'm trying to get to, one of my customers' executives now works at that company. The reason it can do that, even though I don't know this person, I'm not linked into that person, is that we have a rich database on 10 million executives and 1 million companies in our system. And everybody, we have current employment, previous employment. So our system knows company A is my customer. It knows that company B is what I'm trying to get to. And it knows that an executive has company A in their previous employment and company B in their current employment. So it's able to discover latent connections that are not visible, that are really, really critical for your more junior salespeople, which often lead generation people are. It will tell me things like one of my board of director members, one of my directors sits on a board with one of their directors. It will tell me that one of my coworkers that sits next to me used to work at that company. All things that you would not otherwise know. But getting a connection into the right person, we find is critically important and really yields a lot of deals or elevates the size of those deals because you're now talking to a more senior person that's introduced. And again, I know some of these concepts and these technologies are not completely straightforward to understand, and I see some concerned faces, so I would invite you to come by our booth, and one of our people there would be happy to give you an in-depth demo of exactly how it works. We also do free trials and evaluations, and we'll talk about that at the end. So maybe, Phil, you can talk a little bit about relationships, social relationships, connections, and whether you've seen it accelerate any of your account penetration that's been useful to your sales reps.
I can certainly give a particular example that from a very personal situation. We use LinkedIn quite extensively, and we've had a lot of success with that. We encourage our salespeople to connect to other people within our company because you may not have a large network, but your colleagues certainly do. And a particular situation that rings true with me, one of our people was in touch with me. He said, I see you got a relationship into one of the accounts that I'm working. Can you help me get an introduction? And it turns out this is a trusted connection that I have. I was able to introduce him to a good friend of mine who connected him to a decision maker, and after a couple of months he came away with a six-figure deal. And that's the power of LinkedIn. But the real beauty was he found that through InsideView. It was right there through Salesforce, through the mashup. The connections are strong. You go right there, you look at the account, it'll bring you to the connections, and we were connected, and that's how he got there. That's how he got an introduction, and that's how he was able to close a deal faster than perhaps he would before.
How about you, Alex? Any best practices, anything you can share around connecting with people?
These connections have been, again, a big reason why our sales reps from the field came in to use the product. And because we load up the list of our customers that we have, and happy for us, it's growing list. And for us to be able to identify people who have moved from an existing customer and now at a different level as a prospect customer, to be able to call and follow up on that and make sure that we make that connection based on the fact that they have been a customer is a big one. The other piece that we use is, the board of directors. If somebody, we have a customer who's on their board, who's also on the board in a different company. And if you know that information, when you make a call into this other company and talk to a senior executive and say, by the way, Bob, who's on your board, is also on the board of this company, and they're very happy with us, you'd be amazed how quickly you make that connection. And all of a sudden, you just hear something that they'll react to. They won't hang up on you. So we make a big use of that. And also our own executives. I mean, we just hired a senior level HR person in our company. She comes from a big retail company. Who else does she know in her past? What other companies has she worked at that we can connect with? And those are automatically done here. And again, can you do this stuff independently? Yeah, you can. You can go do a lot of research on the web and all that. But for this stuff to be kind of presented to you in one place and be pushed to you, to your reps, who basically you're paying on kind of on a dial, and also, who are very busy in the field trying to close business, that's the part that's interesting. That's the part that I think saves you money because it just makes them so much more productive.
Speaking of that, let's listen to one of your users and what they say about connections.
I'm Olivia Cohn with SuccessFactors. I'm part of the lead generation team covering the enterprise accounts. I love SalesView, and I use it every day. It makes my work life a lot easier and makes my day more productive. There are a lot of functions in SalesView I rely on daily, from key company information on my prospects to finding about their competitors to their daily alerts on my watch list. What I find most useful about SalesView is how it helps me identify key relationships critical to engaging prospects, especially important with executive selling. The SalesView People's tab has accurate information on all the executives all the way down to director level. Sometimes I even get direct dial information, which is very helpful. Even more valuable is the Smart Connections feature, which surfaces any hidden relationships that I may have with prospects through colleagues, common board of directors, previous employers, and reference customers. And name dropping is a great way to grab the attention of an executive in those critical few seconds I catch them on the phone. Of course, I'll also take advantage of the LinkedIn tab to access additional connections as well. Smart Connections will get me more senior connections into the prospect. SalesView and Salesforce.com integration is truly amazing. Fewer tabs on my screen increase my productivity. Everything is lightning speed, and the sync feature helps me export new account, contact, or lead records from SalesView with a single click, enabling the easy update of my Salesforce data. SalesView has truly become integral to my daily workflow. My job would take a lot longer, and some prospect interactions would not even be possible without the timely and relevant intelligence I've come to rely on from SalesView. Thank you, InsideView, for creating such an awesome product.
And by the way, those are not unique experiences. Stop.
I'm Olivia Cohn. with SuccessFactors.
You can go backwards.
One more time.
She's very persistent, I could say that.
She keeps coming back. There you go. So those are not unique experiences. We actually track how often the average sales rep who uses the application interacts with the application. In the early days, back in 2007, when we first started working on SuccessFactors, it was 8 times a day, which we thought was pretty good. Today, the average user interacts with the application 90 times a day. So it's become really their main search engine, if you want, to look up information, to discover contacts, to discover connections. So now I'll open up additional questions. In other words, some we didn't get to before, either on the previous topic or on this topic of how to connect to the right people. Yes?
Can this be used in a business customer kind of model? You guys be able to find individual companies selling directly to customers, aggregating customers?
It's really for a B2B and the people within an organization, but not individuals that are, and usually in the B2C is usually all inbound, so this is really more for dealing with other businesses. Any other questions? Yeah. It will give you in an aggregate fashion, but it will not tell you individual people who are purchasing those things. It will tell you the sentiment of their Twitter over certain products, but it's really meant for a B2B interaction as opposed to B2C interactions. Yeah. We do. We do have some customers that basically fundraising, managing their the companies, and fundraising from a B2B perspective, managing their customers, but also sometimes fundraising from an individual perspective of wealthy executives that might be givers from an individual perspective. So we do see both of those use cases. Yeah.
Blogging about a certain program or product, is it pulling that information and say, hey, so-and-so is looking for a specific type of program on the blog or a tweet or anything like that?
Yeah, it does if the person is mentioning specific companies, for example. So, I know the other day, one of our sales reps was talking to a customer and showing them their own record of their own company, and I think it was on Twitter, people were tweeting about, I'm looking at buying their product, but I'm considering these other 2 products as well. So, that should, I think we were talking to the VP of sales, basically just stopped the conversation, got one of his sales reps and said, go get this person, because that's more what's happening. People out there on Twitter are talking about your product, and it's not always visible. You can also see when you're reaching out to a customer, you can see what are people saying about their product. Because oftentimes, if they're saying good things or bad things, that's also a sales opportunity for you. Maybe that company has quality issues, or maybe they don't have global coverage, or maybe they're missing some capabilities you can add to them. So we see both use cases. Yes?
I've always wondered in working with both the product and a lot of the monitoring like Radio 6 or Scout Labs, what happened if InsideView and Radio 6 had a baby? Do you think, is there any chance on the product roadmap, maybe in 2010 or 2011, that some sort of monitoring or influence solution might be able to help?
Yeah, we're actually having some conversations. There are a few companies in that space, Viral Heat, Radiant 6, that are solving that problem, which is really a complementary problem. I think the view of customers to social media will continue to be aggregated and be more and more together. Salesforce.com provides a great platform for us to be able to integrate with each other, but there's some conversations going on that front. And the other front is really the marketing automation side of things. So how do you do marketing campaigns, and how do you tailor those marketing campaigns? Can you go into a marketing campaign specific for customers that have gotten a new CEO in the last 30 days? Could you do a marketing campaign for customers that just open up a new office? Could you do a marketing campaign for any company that's launched a new product? So really starting to tailor your marketing efforts as well. Great. Excellent question. So last topic for today is really CRM adoption. So maybe, Alex, you can talk about what is done from your perspective as far as getting more value out of your CRM, which is Salesforce.com, for your end users?
Sure. And I realize that we may be unique in having this problem where our sales reps don't necessarily gravitate towards updating all the data every day. I'm sure none of you have that issue. But obviously, any CRM system, even as easy to use as Salesforce.com, the utility for the management team is pretty obvious. That's where you get the information, you get your forecasts, dashboards, analytics. For the reps, you have to come up with ways to kind of make it interesting for them to get in there and just not make them data entry jockeys. There are multiple things you can do. And one of them is to give them information that they don't otherwise have unless they go into the system. And the fact that they can get in there and as they're looking up their information, they actually get access to InsideView within the same window, where they can also update account information or contact information if something's out of date. They can do it right there without having to open a different window or go to a couple different websites. We have seen that be basically kind of a good incentive for them to use the system. So adoption has gone up. It's a reason for them to get in there. So it's one of the few carrots you can offer. I mean, the sticks are, you got to have your forecast done by Friday or no MBO or whatever. But what are some of the carrots you can use? I mean, this is one. There's information waiting for them there, and that's because of the way the information is mashed up within the app.
Anything to add to that, Phil?
Well, CRM adoption has been a mission of mine for many years with multiple systems, and in my experience, you can't mandate, you can't bully, you can't even incent salespeople to keep the system up to date. You've got to create value, and it's the value that drives salespeople to actually use and keep their CRM system up to date. It's very simple. So the SalesView... So SalesView does create value for our salespeople, and there's a lot of other tools that we put in place to help them in other areas as well. But this in particular is when they're perhaps dialing a contact, when they're looking up an account to see what the recent interactions are, or whether they're looking at a lead, information is presented right there to them. And it just brings them back into the system all the time. And similar to the other example there, the ability to synchronize information and keep it up to date is another valuable asset that our salespeople can use to keep the system up to date. They can update phone numbers, they can update addresses. It just brings more and more value to our salespeople, and that's a huge benefit. It's really driving CRM adoption, in my opinion.
From an implementation, I know one of the things I always worry about as a CEO of a company is whenever my team says we need to implement new software, I always think about, oh my God, how long is that going to take, how much time, how much energy? What was the rollout of, how difficult was it for you to roll out InsideView? And I know you've done it broadly across your sales team, and I'll ask you the same question because you've done the same.
It was not difficult at all. Basically, the user of the system show up, and within the account system, they have view into SalesView. So we did some training to make sure that they understand some of the benefits that the product has. But I mean, we're not talking about a rollout of any. I don't know if it's days or hours, which ones to pick. It's fairly quick. You want to obviously pick the agents, and you want to pick the. And what we do is we give the account list to InsideView, so we can have those connections made for us automatically. That's pushed to the sales reps. But all of those things are fairly quick. It's fairly intuitive. Reps pick it up. What we have found out, though, is what we like to do is just remind them every now and then of some of the features or new functions that are available, because it just makes them more productive. So that's fairly quick.
And that's one of the things that any one of you can do who is a Salesforce.com customer. You can go to App Exchange. You can install the mashup. You automatically get the free version, which is free forever. It's a more limited version of the application, and you can run it. And then you can decide if and when to upgrade to the premium version. So I would encourage you to go to the URL that's up there as well, in case this weekend you would like to be driving around. And it's such a convertible Aston Martin. I saw it on the floor. Which I think is even better. So I don't know if I need to say anything more around that topic, but I think if you go to a URL, visit our booth, you get all the information that you need to be able to sign up for that. So happy to take any other questions that we haven't addressed so far, or comments. Yes. Yeah, most of our customers tend to be in the business services, consulting sector, and the technology sector. We do have some healthcare customers, depending on what kind of information you need. That's probably an offline conversation to see whether we have the information exactly that you need. Any other questions? Great. Well, I appreciate your time and attention, and encourage you to come by and give the Aston Martin a look and sign up for that. And I hope one of you who came to the session is going to be a winner. Love to see you driving around San Francisco in that.